So I can see this notification there.
Yes. Hi, hello, that's right. And now we go live as well in our event page.
Okay, I will just double check now. Yeah, I can see us as well. So I think we can do, I think I see myself. Yeah, I think we can give like a couple of minutes to our subscribers.
Yes, to join us, and then we will start. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us today, Bulat. This is really a pleasure. We've met before for a few sessions and discussions as well, for different topics. I really value your background in oil and gas industry, and your journey to Australia as well is very inspiring. So how do you feel there? How do you like the country and new kind of safety challenges out there?
Well, first of all, thank you, Alessa, for joining me today. Well, Australia, it's been nearly 4 years as I moved it here in 2022. So I would say I probably get used for it already. I haven't seen the snow for more than 4 years now. That's probably a bit of unusual for me. But all in all, I would say safety is safety whenever you are. In Europe, in Northern America, in Australia, people do fail. People sometimes fail in similar manner, and we all have quite similar bones we used to fracture sometimes. So people are people. So we're trying to help them fail safer, if you know what I mean, right? So yeah, I didn't feel much difference when I was working between continents, right? And there are some, I would say, regional things to consider, but generally, I would say my approach never differed from Northern America, from Europe, or from Middle East. Every time I was myself. That's it.
Yeah, that's very important actually, to stay committed to your values and your journey, and the things how you deal with the challenges. My experience is a bit different. You're absolutely right about the safety, that we're all human beings and it's very similar across the world. But the commitment level is different, and the behavior and beliefs is a bit different. So there is a kind of a cultural aspect in it. So I'm currently based in the Middle East, and it's a bit different from the rest of the world, what I've witnessed before and experienced. So, but yes, in the end of the day, we all try to support people. We work with their hearts and minds, and this is how we try to keep them fail safely, as you said, and as well to change their attitude to the culture, their behaviors and their beliefs.
Exactly. I fully agree with you. And I already see a couple of comments here in the comment box. So I think people joining us. Do you see how many people joined so far?
I can see 6 now, but I think it's still updating because it's
right.
Jumping here and there. So if you want, we can have a look at the comments and answer the questions if there are any.
Yep. I think we can start anyway. People will be joining soon. It's 5 minutes as we started. So yeah, I'm all yours.
Okay. Yes, guys, let's start. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Bulat, for your time and for your openness to share your experience. So today we talk about very interesting topic, because nowadays the progress actually as a rocket blowing our minds with the AI, with the data, with the digital stuff across the world, and as well all these trends, they come to the safety field also. Let's maybe start our discussion and conversation about the current modern trends and safety, about digital platforms, about different solutions, about how the world is changing and how safety profession as well can stay aligned and can stay in trends. So we can as well follow up with the progress and develop our skills, and what actually may be as well limiting us from progressing faster than we actually doing it now. So what do you think about the last couple of years trends and developments?
Yeah. So I'll probably start from the end of this set of the questions, right? So, and we'll start probably from the safety people in the industry all over the world. So the most concerning trend, I would say, safety people, they struggling to find a new job. if they lost one. And traditionally, safety industry is quite conservative, if you know what I mean, right? People still relying on old diplomas, old certificates, like a NIBOSH and similar one. And well, if 10 years ago, that was like a sort of a magic pill, which was opening the doors and giving you opportunities, you now probably see on the LinkedIn that every day, like 5 to 10 people getting the certificates and diplomas. And guess what? Nothing. Because if 10 years ago, there was like 5 guys with these diplomas for each position, now it's roughly 300 of them. And it's not actually, I would say, a competitive thing anymore in 2026, unfortunately. So nowadays, we need to ask ourselves if we are looking for a job in safety, right, in 2026, and what can you bring to the business rather than your qualifications. And I would say in 2026, all businesses, they become quite problem centric in the world, right? So, and which problem you can solve being in this role, right? And I would say the biggest challenges will be around the junior positions. And we can see this trend for the last few years already. The gap between junior position and middle position will be just bigger next couple of years. This is a skill-based gap, unfortunately, or fortunately, because we know how to solve this problem, right? With a certain approach. And I think juniors will be at risk next couple of years, 100%. Yeah, I'm not quite happy for this part, but there's always a solution for them anyway. In terms
you're
of
right. The market actually is quite challenging last few years as well for certain of different reasons out there. But you're absolutely right as well. The certificates, they actually doesn't guarantee that you have an experience and you know how to apply all this knowledge as well. And lots of people, as you said, have tons of certificates right now, but it doesn't guarantee that they can solve your issues in the business. And this is a very holistic approach in my eyes when you focus as well in your career and in what we do, and when you're looking for a job, about what value you can bring for the organization, how you can solve their issues, what their problems are right now, because each company is different, and this is how you can as well bring more benefits during your search of new opportunities. Yeah, that's absolutely a valuable point to mention. I'm as well sharing your insights about the new generation. But other than that, I feel as well that maybe the old school guys as well, who has lots of years of experience, but they are not maybe on top of the trends, there might be a risk for the experts as well, because they are a bit behind the line with the progress, digital stuff and AI. So I believe it could be as well kind of a challenge for them when they look for new jobs and when they try to implement some new solutions within the business.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alessa, because 3 of my mentors back in the day, 2 of them struggling to find a new position after 3 years on the market. And these people having like 25 plus years of experience. You can imagine, right? So, and unfortunately, one of my mentors, he has left the business at all. He's not in the safety industry any longer. He was trying to find the job for 3 years. He gave up, and that's the end of the story. It's really sorrow for me because, well, the person who actually bring you to the industry, help you on the very early stages of your career, and 10 years after, you can see the person has to leave. So that's why I used to say it's critical in 2026 to change by design, not by disaster, right? Because it's probably, if you're thinking that you need to change something in your current role, in your current development plan, you need to change now, right? Because traditional pathway for safety professionals, in a years, it was like you get certificate first, you go for diploma. After this, you may go for like a master's in our industry, right? And this traditional pathway, I'm afraid it actually vanishing year by year, right? And that might be a little bit concerning for me, but as well, it might open new opportunities for some of us, right? And that actually a big challenge for next, I would say. I tend to aim for 2030 as this year when we'll see obvious changes. But I think I was too optimistic about this, and I think things changing a little bit faster. So I think next 2 years,
Okay.
2.5 years, I think the situation in the industry will be actually settled down, and we'll see how it goes. And first of all, if you go for like a job listing, we can see how the job listing and job description changes for safety people now, right? And surprisingly, the front line of these changes is probably United States. When you go for these vacations, right? When you go for these listings, you see a new requirements there. And more often they are about the analytic skills, ability to use like the BI tools, and like I would say for safety professionals like 20 years ago. In the standard job place that was like Microsoft Office, more likely, Excel spreadsheets. Now we start seeing the BI tools on the front line, some analytical skills. AI is there more often, right? I won't touch it too much at this point, but it's going to be there. It's not going to vanish next 2 years, right? In some ways,
sure.
it's going to be there. And I start seeing this slide in Australia now. And I would say we're a bit more probably conservative in this space, unlike United States. And I would say what you see in United States now, you probably see on Australian market probably in 2 years. So that's normally how it works from my perspective.
As well, I've noticed that there are more and more positions offered within the companies and business about health and safety data analysis. So basically, they're looking for dedicated people who will analyze and collect and analyze and the data and report some specific highlights based on that, or define specific actions, strategies, etc. So basically, it changes as well within the companies and how they see the data and how they see the safety. Also, I think it happens because of the new trends with sustainable development, actually, because people sometimes think that it's kind of a new wave and health and safety goes to the backyard. But in fact, health and safety is a baseline for your ESG strategy and your performance. So lots of data you can dig out from your data about safety if you collect this one. And I believe now the companies are trying to bridge this gap between these two things, so they can make it easily comply with the required reports, government reporting as well. Define the better options for the strategies and vision for the organizations.
That's really good point, Alessia. And I would say by 2030, every single safety professional will have to be a data analytics in any way, right? It might be like just basic skills in this area, but actually, if you work with any sort of data in safety, right, you're already data analytic. It's just the matter how effective you're doing this, right? Which tools you're using for this. And this skill, I would say it's not only in health and safety field nowadays, right? You probably remember last time we had discussion, I mentioned the World Economic Forum report issued last year, right? And the analytical skills were in the top 3. That was actually number 1 skill in demand by employers in next 5 years, right? That was in 2025, so by 2030. And that was not only for health and safety, but when I see the report, I wasn't really surprised. Yeah, it was always there. I mean, but now you see it's actually have its shape, and there are definitely huge expectations. So that probably will be one of my advices to those who just stepping on this road. Think about your analytical skills. What can you do in this area? I actually have some tips for our followers, but I will probably leave them for the end part of our conversation for today, so we can move forward for now.
Yeah, let's start with our questions. And then, for sure, we will share some extra tips, and I believe there will be questions from our audience as well. So we will answer the questions. So please, guys, if anyone will have any interesting questions or anything in your mind, what you would like to ask Bulat about the data, about the trends you want to discuss, and other things, or you want to share your experience and how you managing, and what's your main challenge maybe as well. So please feel free to text us in the comments. So I want to start actually with the basics. So for sure, the data is not new in the health and safety field. As you said, we always were working with the data. We conduct inspections, we perform audits, and this all generates lots of data. But actually, what I've noticed through my career, that not all of the companies, not all of the professionals and people in our industry, they do understand what kind of value and what kind of horizons it can open to people when you work with the data as well. So can you give us a brief of explanation and a couple of points? What's the value to have this data, how it can help you, and why it's important to have this?
Yeah, and thank you. That's a really good question, and probably the foundation question for our episode today. I tend to be like a myth buster when it's come to data and safety data. And the first thing I want to emphasize, more data is not always better. So, and talking about usefulness of data, I would say usefulness is actually, it isn't a technical property of data, right? It's more a functional one. And it turned out that we generate many data, but I would say majority of companies nowadays, in the best scenario, they tend to analyze probably 30 to 45% of this data. Half of this data, they just actually, I call this expensive digital wallpaper, right? It will be somewhere dig under like gigabytes of information, never will be analyzed in any way. And by the end of the day, I would say the only useful data is the data will change your decision in any way, regardless if it's safety decision or operational decision. And based on the context of your company, right, of your industry, it may vary. Yeah, it's like 100,000 of different types. But again, the more data is not better. It's better be less data, but this data will change your decision to make your job safer and to make the process safer, right? And another big problem, you mentioned big companies, big corporates, right? What we actually found with our community, with our shared community, I will talk more about this community probably a bit later. But the problem of standards and how we work with data is a big thing, right? Because if you have actually people working in different hemispheres and they have different understanding of safety data, it's hard to compare, right? Because you have to maintain comparable things if you operate in the global company, right? And I would say if you're big company, if you're middle company, before you go for expensive solutions like for AI or whatever, try to align how you work with data, right? And that starts with the people, right? With the standards, with the procedures, with the policies. And this alignment, that might be the first step toward this digital transformation in your company in terms of safety. Don't try to bite everything at once. That might be the first step. Alessia, what do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And it's actually a very, I would say, frequent problem when people are gathering too much data and they want to get more and more and more. And then you sometimes the best question you can ask yourself about this, I think, is what's the value? So what it will tell you, this data, and what you will do with this data. As you said, absolutely right. I'm sharing your point of view about this. The data needs to be collected, and the value of the data is when it helps you to change the decisions, to implement some changes, to realign your strategy, to improve something. So that's the main focus. So if you get too much data, it's still, I would say, a waste of your resources and time, because it still generates admin work. It still generates as well, sometimes some extra expenses and extra budgeting, but actually it doesn't make too much sense sometimes. So you always need to keep in mind that everything, don't overcomplex the things, just try to keep it simple, straightforward, and always ask what you will do with this. So what it will tell you and how it can help you to change and improve. Yeah, you're absolutely right as well about the decisions and about the implementations of the digital stuff. Because the most, I would say, things in demand now in discussions is the digitalization, right? So people want to have everything digital, but you can't just build a Rome in a day. And as well, I believe that based on my point of view, probably the organizations are not ready for this like full digital solutions. As well, people still need to keep the critical thinking. Digital stuff makes the things easier, but this is where we can create a gap between the specific to the job, to the site, etc., and lose this kind of precise focus about something when you just try to automate the things. Yeah, all the companies, they choose different approach about how they deal with it, but for sure it's always on number one discussion everywhere, and everyone wants to have everything simplified, digital, AI based, etc. So yeah, you're absolutely right about this. We will see how it goes with the implementations across the companies, but there's definitely lots of things to think first about what you want to achieve, what your focus about this, how it can help you before request any kind of budget for this and implement the solutions. So we as well touched a bit the point about the data, what's the value about this. So can you share what's your point of view about what makes sense actually to collect, and which data is, I would say, crucially important and is a basics in health and safety for analysis purpose?
Well, and thank you for this question, Alyssa. Yeah, and I would say for majority of the industries, the incident data is probably one of the most significant one, right? And nowadays it will help you to get some predictive analysis if you actually have these tools to use in your company, right? And I would probably give you some examples, right? Because I like giving examples when it's come to safety. And I know that some audience might not be really familiar with safety. I know that some of the followers, they from different industries, but just to make it simple, right? The nature of injuries within the industry or within the company or within the, I would say, country level, if we're talking about the business, there's always some patterns in there. A good example from one of our members of SHEDA, I would say this from Australia and New Zealand region. The company was about to run the well-being campaign to reduce number of manual handling injuries, right? Because when it's come to construction or manufacturing, you face with many like back sprains, back strains, hand injuries, shoulder injuries, and initially the company was about to implement, like, I would say, I call this magic pill, right? One solution for all, right? Just a single well-being campaign on the exercises, on the, well, tips and hints how to stay healthy during this course of your work, which is quite physical demanding work. But the data-driven safety person, before implementing the magic pill, he asked why we implementing it just as a framework thing, right? Why we don't do like the targeted thing to every age group or to every production line group on site, right? Because when they start digging deeper, they realize that the every department in the company do have different problems, right? Some of those struggling with the neck pains and back pains, some of them struggling with the knees and elbows. And again, there were some patterns within the age groups as well. So doing quite deep analysis of the trauma natures and injury nature for last few years, both with the operator, with the provider of this course, they actually developed quite nice, quite efficient thing, right? And that wasn't like the magic pill for everyone. They did like a detail quite well established work, and they see the difference in a year, right? They see the difference that the injuries getting lower and lower, and they do quite nice training for trainers as well, and the outcome was quite nice. It didn't get down to zero, right? I don't believe in zero harm, but it got to quite reasonable figures after this training as one of the control measures, right? And I think that is quite nice example, right? Because many businesses might have quite similar problems, and this is just like one iceberg in this ocean, which might be applicable for construction and manufacturing. But in oil and gas or mining, they might have quite similar things, but probably on a different angle. But still, when you start asking why we're doing this, how we can do this better, what if we try to analyze this deeper? And that's where the all data-driven magic comes. So that's just one example. But I think this example quite talking to our followers, right?
Yeah, that's a good example, actually. And this is a good example from a few perspectives. And one of them is that sometimes if you analyze the data in a good way and you spend enough time with it and you define first a different kind of a scope and perspectives what you are looking for, you need to start with the problem, and you can be surprised that the problem isn't in a different place, or it's not just one problem, but there are a few different things which you still need to manage so you can improve the situation. And one more thing worth to mention in my eyes, that most of the data, unfortunately, it gives us the retro perspective. So we analyze the data only after we've dealt already, we're faced with something, with issues, etc. But there is such a great opportunity to use this data for preventative plan, right? So basically, it's a gold mine for strategy, for your, I don't know, annual plans, for your continuous improvements. So as far as one of the examples which I want to share as well, your inspections. So what we analyze as well in our organization is inspections results. So this is how you can define your bottlenecks. This is where you can see, based on the topics, based on the repetitiveness rate and lots of other things, you can understand where your main problems are. And sometimes they can be in a very, very interesting, I would say, places where you didn't expect them to have. So you just focus more on the more important things. And when you have this kind of analysis conducted and you have more as a glance view at the things overall, as well, it can help you to schedule and manage your resources a bit better, so you can understand what is more important, or where you have a lack of, like, a bigger gap or something like this. And it helps you actually to be more reasonable and practicable about justifying why you need the budget, why you need to address these things, because it's based on something, not just out of blue or your own opinion. So you basically have the data supporting this, and you use it as a streamline for your improvements, for the strategy and for the corrective actions or new initiatives, wherever it might be. So yeah, that's very interesting how it can happen from all the different perspectives as well, right?
Yeah.
But what about the skills? So what do you think, what skills people need to make a comprehensive data analysis?
Well, I would say there is no like a framework for the skill set required for this one. But I would say you need to start with basics, right? And data literacy things will be probably on the front line. And my latest advice for all my mentees I'm working with in 2026, I know that many people who actually looking for a job now, they used to have like a LinkedIn Premium, you know? I think you have this subscription. I do have this one. And my latest advice is, when you go to the Learning Central there is actually quite nice tool that help you to develop the data analytical skills. So you just put the data analytics in the search bar, and it gives you quite nice courses. And I would say these courses really make a big difference, right? That's actually how I started doing this. And there are a few certificates from Google, IBM as well. The foundations for SQL and Python. It doesn't mean that you need to master your data analytics skills and to be like a data analytic itself, right? That you can apply for data analytic role independently, right? But it will give you this basic foundation, right? Basic understanding. I would say in 2026, we all need to be familiar with BI tools like Power BI or Click. That's going to be a must-have point in less than 2 years, I would say, if we want to be competitive. Because rather than just collecting and cleaning the data, right, which is the main thing, you need to clean the data. And when I talk to health and safety people, when they say that I'm not actually collecting the data, I'm not actually cleaning the data, and this is false. Every single person in safety role, we all work with data. Sometimes it's a different view, right? In different sources. It might be just Excel spreadsheets. Sometimes it might be even verbal data. And I see this before. But we all work with this. So visualize this data will be the second step. So rather than the foundation, that might be the second step. And another big problem for safety people overall, this is actually a role, I would say 80% of your role you actually communicating with others, right? You try to deliver message. You try to listen to other people, right? And I see that most of us might be still lacking the communication skills, unfortunately. And that's actually critical when it's come to the data. When you try to tell something, the story based on the data, but you couldn't do so because your communication skill they lagging, you know. And one of my advices is to improve your data storytelling skills. It's sort of a soft skill, but even if you mastered your BI skills, you can do like a nice dashboard. You can show the pattern and trend, but you still can't tell this in like a normal language. So no one will get the message in full. Well, what's the value then, right? So there's actually, we're going to the road when we have to maintain a mix of skills, right? The soft skills, the hard skills, some technical skills. I'm thinking we're not going to be like keyboard warriors. No, definitely no. But the foundation behind us must be quite solid, right? And the micro learning might be the first step on this road. Because don't try to buy the whole thing from the beginning, right? It's hard. I know most of us having full-time work, right? We all have kids. We all have commitments, right? It's hard to go for like uni to get like data analytics skills, sorry. Micro learning might be the option, right? If you just have 1 hour per week doing this, even if you do this on LinkedIn Learning, on the data analytic pathway, you will see the difference. And Alessia, just a quick question. If I start doing this learning in January and doing 1 hour per week, guess how many weeks already we're in this year? 13 weeks. You might already have 13 hours of continuous learning, and you actually were about to complete like roughly 2 or 3 certificate courses. I mean, like not a big one, but quite short. And my advice, because I know people nowadays, they're all about social networks. I see people spend a lot of time on LinkedIn nowadays and Instagram. There is a nice feature in your iPhones, guys. You go to the settings, you see the screen time, and just try to find the screen time for LinkedIn and Instagram. Combine them, I will give you an answer. For most of you, it's going to be like roughly 2 to 3 hours per day. Split it by 3. If you do 1 hour of micro learning per day, well, in a year you will be quite a good master in some things, especially if you actually add some practicing in there. But I would say start with microlearning. That's actually easy start. Don't try to get like a big diplomas, big I don't know, certificates. Start with the small things, and you will like it, and you will understand, do you really need this one or not? Or probably safety is just like not your cup of tea.
Yeah, it's actually great advice, and I'm fully hands-on that one as well. I'm in the same opinion about the small wins, and also even 1% makes sense. So even if you will spend your time with something which gives you 1% of improvement, one small step forward, something you want to achieve, it still will bring you a great value, and it will put you in a place much further on your way sometime after that. So basically it's really important that we still put small efforts towards what we want to achieve and which way we go, so we can ensure we continuously learning, we're checking the trends, we are on top of the topics, and we still can benefit from even small amount of time which we invest in ourselves or our job. Absolutely sharing your view about the skills and knowledge. One point in my eyes is as well very important is asking the right questions, because it's very, in my eyes, this is crucial. You can very differently ask the questions, and this kind of misunderstanding sometimes can lead you in a wrong way. So we all need to practice the how we asking the questions, how we putting them in our inspections list, how we word our questions during the investigations of the accidents, and everything we get at the data as well. Because the wrong questions can give you the wrong data in the end of the day, which you won't be able to use, or it's just useful for your purpose. So you need to think before you start doing something and gathering the data based on some specific checklists or anything related to this.
100%. I agree with you, Alice. And we do have some questions here already from our followers. And
Okay,
if
yeah,
you,
let's go
yeah,
through the questions. I don't think I still can see them. Maybe I have some delay. Can you read them, please?
Yeah, sure. We got a question here from HR Gerard. Thank you for your question. Head of Expertise Center, Health and Safety and Wellbeing. Hello, thank you for this important podcast. Can you please share some best practices and steps to build organization capabilities in safety data analytics? So, Hicham, thank you for your question. We partially answered for this question already due to the episode, but again, I would say start with the small things. Work with your people, teach your people, and learn them for data literacy first, right? Another big advice will be around the center of data analytics in your company. I know that in some companies all over the world, in big companies, sometimes the data analysts, they just sitting on the other side of the country in different cities, in different states, or sometimes in different countries, and that's actually a big problem. I would say if you keep the center of data analytics closer to the health and safety group, it's going to help a lot. It's going to help you to build the better decisions. It's going to be quicker as well. And again, when you have someone in your team who can speak the same language with data analytics, and well, as I mentioned, most of us will have speak the same language with data analytics in the next 2.5 years. That's probably will be the first things. And again, alignment will be the foundation for this process, because if we're talking about big companies, we need to make sure that the data entry standards in one country and in another country and the definitions, they are similar. Otherwise, the information you gather, it's not comparable. The information, when it's not comparable, there's no value in this, right? And that's probably the first basic steps. They're quite simple, but I think the worst thing you can do at the very first establishment stage is just to overcomplicate the things. You have to make it simple, because complex systems, they have complex problems. We try to avoid this.
One more point I would probably want to mention about this question is how I see it as well, and how I'm trying to work about safety and how I manage it in my way. is I'm always trying to make safety an integrated process within the organization. So I would say if you want to integrate something across the organization, especially if it's a big organization and you want to create this framework and capabilities for data analysis, it's always an advantage if you can spread it across the processes or across the departments, and you can actually get some extra points. Don't just centralize it within only safety, because you still can get lots of insights from other things, and sometimes it can be as well done automatically by the system, by the specific apps or whatever kind of digital solutions you plan to use. But as far as it can be used by the different stakeholders, there is always a benefit in it, because you still will get a wider picture about that. You mentioned a very important point about the accuracy of the data and the way how people interpretate it. So I witnessed the same, and I've faced with the same problems, and I think lots of our colleagues across the profession, when we're dealing with inspections, right? If you put the question too generic, people will look from different perspectives. They will look on something how they feel the question is asking for the answer. But if you put the criteria, and if you guide people, if you give them examples, if you specify what exactly they need to look for, or you can train them what exactly and how they need to collect the data, or which data you want them to focus on. So this is a very important point about alignment, because in other case you can get the salad of all sorts of different things, and it will be very hard to analyze. It will be very hard to define your strategy based on this data, because it will still get some bits and pieces which are not related to your point, or it will go in just was a wrong direction or angle perspective. So you need to be very careful about this, and it's quite I would say it must be a big project overall about implementation of this. So you first need to be aligned about what you want this data to give you, about your goals and targets. So what you want to achieve, what you want to use it for. And then it must be a big project about implementation with lots of stakeholders if you want to do it in the right way. Because as far as you're starting doing this, I believe if you just start with a small bit, later on you still back to the other things and you want to adjust the parts, but it's already can be a bit more complicated, because you need to rebuild the system or you need to realign the solution, and it can cost you extra money. So if you can at least define kind of overall big goals for yourself, and then you can split it into the stages how you will implement this. And then you can start with smaller bits, but still you look at it as one system. You still look at it as one overall supportive tool, which will help you to support the organization with the data analysis, and including health and safety professionals in your company.
Yep, that's great. Fully agree on this. And surprisingly, safety people, they not frequently injure themselves. So we need to be close to the source of these injuries in terms of data, right? If it's operations, it have to be there as well, right?
Yep.
We should never forget that we actually helping people. We're not like a business line ourselves. We are part of the business, but we're helping the business as well. So we always have to be problem centric. That's a good point. Thank you for this.
As we started to talk about the frameworks. Yep, sorry.
Yep, I just have one message here as well. A message from Erica Argumedo.
Okay.
I'm interested in focusing on data analytics, and I would like to have some advice. So Erica, I think, I can see your message. So everyone who need my advice after this podcast, you can reach me out. Yeah, I know that we have limited time today, but you can reach me out. I think it is probably your followers, but we actually cross-promotional today. If you want to join me, please join me. I'm not sure I have any invitations left this week, so just follow me. I will answer all your questions after. All right, thank you.
Yeah, as well, we will later on post this record on our YouTube channel, and as well I will share the main links to Bulat channels and his wonderful community as well. So all the main contact details will be shared with everyone. You can find them as well in the description of the event, and as well it will be shared on the YouTube in the description of the video.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you.
So we've touched a bit about the frames for this in the organizations. And what do you think? Which tools, in your eyes, can be useful to use for data analysis? I know you've already answered a bit with the BI tools and other things.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share some practical advices about specific tools for specific purpose, or some good examples about multi-purpose tools, if I can call them this way, which can help people to actually get the data and as well analyze the data in one place and make it specifically maybe for the safety purpose or anything like that in your mind?
Yeah, I would probably speak from my expertise and experience. So the two major tools I use in practice was Power BI and Click. I would say Power BI by Microsoft. It's definitely more half of the whole market of business intelligence, right? And I would even say like three quarter is for Power BI on the market now, and it's easy to check how the trend works in every different country. You can just do experiment, right? Which tool probably more popular in your area. When you go to the local job board, just type there data analytic or BI developer and see the requirements. If it's Power BI, that means that Power BI probably the first tool for you. I would say that's the Power BI probably will be the first choice because it's widely used in majority of industries now, and it's quite transferable skill. Who knows what's going to be like in a few years and what's your role going to be like? But having this skill in your background will always be nice and helpful. Click is probably number 2 in my list. It's probably even a bit more user friendly. There are some quite nice features, especially applicable for health and safety personnel. And I personally use Click at my work at the moment, right? But sometimes, and I know some companies in Australia, they might use even 2 different tools at the same time. That's kind of interesting to me. I know that like Qantas, the Australian airlines company, Qantas, they have quite a big data analytical centers, and they actually use both, right, for different purposes, as far as I'm aware, right? And so they always will be. They won't be like a single solution, but I would probably start with these two, right? And these two, they perfectly matching with the major EHS platforms we using everywhere. So Evertix, SNI, ServiceNow, it's all there, right? They work perfectly with all these platforms. And another problem, how we align with this data, but we already discussed this. But I would start with these two. And by the way, if you go for the Learning Central in LinkedIn, you can easily navigate and find these courses. And the basic courses, they took like a few hours. So in a few hours, you will be able to do the basic stuff and basic dashboards. If you want to master your skills, just spend a little more time and more practice in there. But I would say in majority of cases, in 3 to 6 months, you can be quite familiar with the tool on the practical level. And 3 to 6 months is probably, if you're really committed to your goal, you can be there in 6 months easily. Just having like 2 hours per week, you might be there.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I believe not all of us familiar with some of the apps and tools which you've mentioned. So I definitely think it worth to check how it works and what the overall setup for this and main features, so we can check how we can improve our daily work with safety data. So okay, we've I think covered quite interesting questions, but what about your experience and what kind of advice you can have maybe for and share for traditional health and safety professionals who feels intimidated by a rapid pace of the digitalization and overall progress?
Well, my first advice is probably not to be intimidated by all these changes. Yeah, it's the world is constantly in change, but you know that I call this safety gut feeling, right, which you can develop over the years. This is still the biggest asset in the room, right? It always will be there. Your skill, your your years of experience in safety, it's not going to vanish just like in a click. You just need like to obtain the new shape now to be aligned with this one, right? And like 30, 40 years ago, we all start using like personal computers. And for some people that was quite unusual, right? But all in all, we are here now on the live podcast, right? And that's the main thing. Don't be just intimidated by this, and don't try to change everything in a week. It's a long journey. It takes a while, but if you're really committed to this, just take your time. You'll be there. And always remember that your experience is the biggest asset. It's the biggest asset in the room, regardless what's going on in the IT market. Is it AI, or probably in 5 years it's going to be something else? But your experience will be always there. So please stick with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about how we adapting to the changes. And actually, this is the main thing. We are always scared with something new to come, and what we are not familiar about and how it works. And we're always afraid that something will take our jobs, like AI and other things. But at the same time, there are lots of advantages about it, right? So it can be a huge amount of help about all these features and apps and digital stuff. And one more thing, what was in my mind is actually as far the progress goes, and we are progressing about the technology and all the tools and hardware as well, as faster it goes then. So basically, I believe we're just at the beginning, and as far as you just step in, now with all the AI features and all this new digital stuff, it will just go faster. So it's the main problem soon will be not just to understand the things, but to stay on top of the trends and understand and be adaptable. So this is how it all works in my eyes. You just you can't stop the progress, right? There are still too many things to solve across the engineering, across the medical issues, and lots of things around us. But we are a part of this as well. So the organizations changes, the world changes, the generations changes, and you just need to stay aligned. You need to stay focused. You need to stay and go hand in hand with all of those changes. It's the only way how you can as well keep your development plan, how you can stay on the market with the jobs, and how you can develop your skills, and you can benefit from all these improvements and new era.
And I would also add, Alessia, that it's crucial to stay human still. And
Yeah.
I would emphasize that that's advice probably mainly for younger people in the industry, right? And you mentioned the development plans. And still, there is only one person who really interested in your career, and this is you, right? No one else
Yeah.
is interested in your career more than you, and never will. So I know a very limited number of companies within our community who really invest the money in these skills that might not be really obvious for health and safety people, like a data storytelling, like a data analytic courses. It's not like the framework skills for them. It's somewhere from the gray area. But this is somewhere you should make the first step. And no one will make this step for you, unfortunately. And the probably worst strategy now is to wait. To wait just what's going to be next. I know many people, quite experienced one, when we're talking about the skill gaps, they're saying, I'll probably wait for another 2 years. I'll see how it goes. I probably don't need the skill. I think in 2 years it's going to be easier to get this skill. Unfortunately,
Yeah, it will be hard
in
to
2
bridge
years,
the gap.
and it might be really late, unfortunately. So I would say don't wait for the better time to gain new skills. It's better to do this right now.
Yeah, it's always better to upgrade your skills as far as you go, and it's easier as well because you don't need to consume such a huge amount of information and studies, and you still have an opportunity to practice the skills. So you're not rushing like now. People have all of those like NIBOSH and IOSH certificates, but none of them have experience. actually practical knowledge about how to apply all these studies. Also, the data is very supportive, but you just need to stay focused that our profession mostly about human beings, right? So you can't change the human beings' behavior. You need to work with their hearts and minds. None of the Power BI tool or Excel spreadsheet will help you to change their behavior. So there is still lots of work needs to be done on the background with working directly with your stakeholders, with the management teams, with the leaders, with the operators, with the manufacturing staff, with the supervisors, and all the way around us. For sure, it can be very useful and very helpful to define your strategy, your vision, to understand how you can and where you can improve. So I think it was really a great discussion. I know you have as well quite a big community, Shada, about health and safety data analytics. So can you share with us a bit about this one? What's the benefits? What are you actually doing, and how people can join you as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, Share is a international community for those who really keen to know more about data analytics in health and safety. And by far, it's probably more than 1,000 people who joined the community at 1,300, I think so. And we're actually growing fast. We double our size in the last 6 months, and we have probably people from 30 plus countries at this point. And
Wow.
as always, I was trying to be problem centric when I founded this community, because a part of my personal development plan in 2024 was to join some data analytical community in safety. And I actually was a bit lazy in 2024, to be honest. And I told myself, I'm going to do this in Q4. When I tried to find this community, I couldn't find the one. So guess what happened next? I have to create this one. And
Yeah, that's how it
surprisingly,
all works sometimes.
yes, I was really surprised for the feedback and response of the health and safety world, how quickly this thing was actually taking on the wave, right? And that was November 2024. In January 2025, I saw this report, Future of the Professions, by World Economic Forum I mentioned earlier. And I see the top 3 skills. Number 1 skill is analytical skill. And I understand, yeah, it's probably we're doing the right thing now. And now, almost like 1.5 years later, I see that this thing is just getting more and more on the point. A big thing,
Yeah.
we're working with younger people who just joining the health and safety world, and for them now it's probably easier to adapt new skills because they're really new in profession. They're not really used for the traditional pathway with all this, I would say, traditional certificates like a NIBORSH or NIBORSH diplomas or similar. And we're trying to help these people as much as we can. And one of the programs I started last year, I started mentoring people. And last year I have like 6 mentees all over the world: Ireland, Australia, Singapore, and many more countries actually. And I see this interest to gain new skills, to join. And that's probably why I'm still doing this as a volunteer, right? I will tell you what was our first projects back in 2024. A group of like-minded people, it was less than 10 people back then. We start actually looking for health and safety data in Commonwealth countries like New Zealand, Canada, Australia, the UK, and on some government sources, you can see and you can find just the raw data, right? Which was never analyzed. And this group of people, they were really keen to understand what the trends, how it happens, what can we do better. And I was surprised how their effort combined with data analytical skills, because we also do have professional data analysts, data scientists in our community, and we're trying to help each other. They're really interested in how to make the world safer, and we really want to know how to speak their language. And now we're trying to understand what's going to be the framework for health and safety profession of the future, right? What's going to be this framework requirements for us? How deep we need to know of the data analytics, and all these tools. And we trying to find this answer now. We're almost there. It takes some time. We try to master our skills, but it's going to be a long journey. And we actually welcome everyone who wants to join us along the way. And yeah, you can leave the information in the comments to my profile. I think it's all already there. But for Shadow, you can actually tag the group in the LinkedIn, and you're all welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. There is definitely a very interesting initiative from your side, and I'm sure that it will be a very interesting journey. And as far as you will find this answer, please, I think that we will have a different session, and you probably will share something else with us, okay? About
we're working on it.
Overall,
thank you.
Yeah, that's really great. I will as well share all the links to share the community as well in the comments, and also in our YouTube channel, so people can reach out to you and your community and see what you are doing there and how they can join you as well. So do we have any other questions?
I think we don't, and it's 7 minutes past 8 in Perth in Australia. And
yeah,
if we don't have any other questions in the chat box, I think we can finish our great podcast. And I would like personally thank you, Alessa, for doing this. I would say not many people in health and safety world nowadays doing this sort of podcasts, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you for your kind words. Actually, the as well, I'm kind of a same sort of person, I think, about the profession, and I'm quite passionate about safety and what we do, and what I was trying as well to share the experience which we've gained, and how I was looking for something where people can get interesting advices, the main insights, not just through the network and Google search, but actually from the proper experts from the market, proper experienced people, safety professionals and experts who can share already some lessons learned and as well share some advices with the new generation. So that was the purpose behind it, and this is the path we go now with the podcasts and some other community which we've developing now. Yeah, we all been there. There are still more things to come, and thank you so much for your time. I thank everyone for joining us. I believe it was really a good discussion about the future, about as well the nowadays, how we can improve now, and what you can do to be prepared for your next career stages and your new safety arrangements within your organizations, so you can stay aligned and on top of the trends and new changes on the market. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I wish you everyone to have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.